Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. It is time. Timing is important, and it is time. How do I know it's time? Because I got a set of instructions and I saved them away, and I've just had a good read, and basically this Zygopetalum has got two chances. You can live or you can die, and this time it really is the last one. So this one either pulls on and does well, in which case I might get some more because I'll have cracked it, as they say. If this one goes down as well, then that's the last one. I know I've said that before, but I am trying something different. Now, the plant itself has been into soak all morning to make sure the media that it's in is incredibly wet. The theory being it should come off easier. It's going in koi, the husk. So this is the basic husk. Yeah, this is a medium grade, so it will have some air in it, but not a lot. The larger grade would have had more air in it. So the recommendation is that they don't like an airy mix. They have a terrestrial nature. Even the ones that are classed as epiphytes are found on the ground sometimes. Some are true terrestrials and some are true epiphytes. But that's the species. This is geared up to somebody else's experience, Michael McCarthy, with hybrids basically, which is what I've got. It's not a species. It's an unknown. It hasn't even got a flipping name. But what we've got in here is a very fine grade. Yeah, this is for the top of the pot around the base of the plant, so that when the roots start to grow, they've got something to get straight into without too much air that will hold its moisture. Because it's a finer grade, it will stick together better. How do you get a fine grade when you haven't bought any? You get a medium grade and a pair of scissors, which is a little tedious, but the hell else have I got to do? I'm flipping locked up indoors again, and my orchids are my only real thing that gets me off my backside, quite honestly. There isn't much else apart from food. We do like our food. Right, so that's what it's going in basically, and I did say that one day I would try these out. Yeah, now it's also in those notes, it says that they don't like a lot of air around the roots. They do like to stay wet, but staying wet and cold might not be the best idea. So have a holy pot or a more open pot, possibly even heading towards a basket if you've got low temperatures that you're worried about. But these things come from areas that get a lot of rain all year round. They don't have a dry season as such, so they're wet orchids. They do grow wet. So it's going in one of these new pots that I got with the huge air cone. The air cone almost, well, it comes to there, looking at it from the side. The air cone comes right up to there. So the base of the plant, underneath the actual base of the plant, there's not going to be a lot of media. It's going to have to push down the sides. Right, so that's the stuff we don't want. Now I'm going to do this there, so hopefully I don't make too much mess. But the idea is to disturb these roots and touch them as little as possible. And if this goes to plan, hopefully I won't have to touch the roots at all. Now the idea is to lift it out of the pot. It should come out with its media. Oh my God, look at those roots. Well, we're off to a good one, aren't we? And then the idea is to just slosh it around in the water and wash the media off. And what doesn't come off naturally is going to come off under the tap rather than poking it around. That's the theory is to just not touch the roots. Now, because of oils and things on your skin, wear gloves if you're that way inclined. I can't stand gloves, so I just don't like gloves. I don't even wear gloves in the winter, you know, when I'm out in the freezing cold. Now this is a good root system. I am determined not to lose it. That is the best root system I've ever had on a zygo at repot time, and I don't want to lose it. Now all of this media is just drifting off. Yeah? There's hardly any left already, and all I'm doing is just sloshing it around. There is a bit of bark in amongst this which I'm going to try and just ease out. But apart from that, we have got some sad roots here, but the recommendation is to not muck about with the roots. You're better off not touching the roots, trying to get old ones out and dead ones out and messing up the new ones and damaging their delicate root tips. So, as I said, there is a little bit of bark here. For once we haven't got a sphagnum moss plug in the middle. Actually we have. It was over the other side, I can see it now. It's very tiny and it's accessible. I can get at it and I will be able to wash that out under the tap better than I will poking around. Now we've got two tiny little bulbs around the back here that I want off. So they've come off nicely and I'm hoping that the roots will just unthread by gently tugging. They'll probably be dead roots anyway, but if I can get them off I will. There we go. And our moss. And that is enough mucking around with the roots. No more. That's it. They branch. There's growing tips I can see. Here. Here. Lots. Yeah. And they're not going to get disturbed. They are actually going to get left. The only thing I'm going to do with the plant is see how many of the sheaths I can get off. But the other instructions, what I said, timing is of paramount importance. I just hope it doesn't vary too much amongst the hybrids. But zygos don't produce their roots until the new growths progress. So not when they're brand new. Yeah? And also, to time it right, the new growth should be between 2 and 5 centimetres. That one's about 5, maybe coming up to 6. That one tucked in there is probably about 4, and this one's about 2.5. So I've got 3 new growths here, and the instructions are to repot when those are that size, and then if the older roots start to fail, the new roots won't be far behind. I don't expect this old root system to fail, quite honestly. But the beauty of this pot is there's a hole up the middle of this plant. Yeah? Guess where the air cone will be? Straight up through the middle of this plant. Right, so I'm just going to give that a run under the tap. It's only going to take a second, so I won't bother shutting down. That's just to get any dirt out. A couple of bits of bark are falling out of the middle there. And that'll do. That's all it's going to get. Just gently push that down there. This is going to go straight out in the garden, but not now. I'll do it in a minute. So it can go over there out of the way. And this old stuff that's left in there can just go in the saucepan ready to be dumped. Right, clean hands, bit succulent. Now all we've got to do is get it in that pot with that media. Oh, what fun. Now this media is very soft to the touch. It's not gratey or hard. So the theory is I should be able to do a bit of pressing down without damaging the roots too much, because the bark can sort of scrape down the side of the roots as you try and compact it. Now what I'm doing here is making sure that around this air cone this media is pressed down really, really tight. That's the bit the roots are going to have to work to get into. And if they do get into that bit, they'll love it because it's a nice tight mix that retains water. But there's no way I'm pressing like this with the roots there. That's why I'm doing it now. And then the root tips that are at the base of this plant will be sitting on the top of this, ready to go straight in there with any extensions that they grow. Right. I can't go too much more. I may even have too much media. I've now got to try and sit the plant on there and see how far in the pot it goes. Nope, a bit too much media. I need it to go down a little lower. Because obviously I don't want the plant sticking out the top of the pot. The media needs to come up to the base of those new growths. And they can be slightly in it because this media on the surface of the pot will dry quite quickly. Yeah? So the base of the new growths won't be soggy and damp. No, I'm going to go a bit deeper. So it's worth, for me, this is worth trying to get it as right as I can, whatever right is in my mind. And I want it about the right depth without having to force it down, because that will crack the roots. They're very delicate, the roots, very delicate. They look big and fleshy and firm, sort of almost like cymbidium roots, but they're not. They're incredibly delicate. Right, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to put, actually no I won't, it'll do its own thing. So how are we now then? Dead root there. That'll do, that'll do. There will be a little bit of pressing down, but not a lot. Now, this has got to go over there so that the new growths have got plenty of room to progress. But the first thing I want to do is I've got a hole down the middle of the plant. Yeah? So I want to delicately put some down in there before I start mucking about. I'm still going to have to tease some down the side of the roots. There's going to have to be some media on the outside of these roots. But it's a delicate manoeuvre. Alright, so that's got most of that central hole. That hole that I showed you just now up through the middle of the plant, that doesn't want to be hollow. We need to get some media in those areas. So now it's just a matter of teasing this down. And what I'm going to do is hold the roots away from the side of the pot gently and put the media in so that I'm not pressing on the roots. It's going down in the hollow that I've made by gently holding the roots away from the side of the pot. That way the roots aren't getting pressed, just getting gently moved, which they will put up with. I can hear roots cracking, so I really do need to go careful. So the odd one or two is not going to kill the plant. I've got a feeling we're going to need a stake as well, which is a flipping nuisance. Right, not much more of the big stuff now. I'm going to switch to the small stuff. I just need some more big stuff around the outside. Where I've got the biggest gaps, the ones I can see, I just as well use them. Right, if this is going to keep flopping like that, it's going to do some damage, so I need to get the stake in now. This is going to be difficult, and I'm going to do my trick by tying the stake to the outside, or sticking the stake to the outside of the pot so that I can grab hold of the whole plant. So you stay there, I'll shut the camera for a minute while I sort of get my stuff together. Okay, so the idea is to stick the stake to the outside of the pot. Now I've chosen one that I'm hoping is going to go in one of these holes. too big. I wonder if I've got something thinner. There's a ring of holes around the plant, around the top of the pot here. If I could get a stake down in there and then tape it to the pot, it'll be absolutely rigid. Let's see if I can find a thinner one. Right, that should do the job. It's a piece of steel. It's off a pot hook that came with one of the plants relatively recently. So this will now go down through that hole in the top of the pot, and then all I've got to do is get some tape on it to hold it in place. So, piece of tape, doesn't need much. And all that's got to do is hold the tape, hold the stake to the pot, like so. Obviously I had to dry the pot off with a paper towel, otherwise the tape wouldn't have stuck. Right, so that's got it. The plant is only staying upright at the moment because it's leaning against this shelf. If I move it, it will flop over, and that's going to damage the root base at the base of the plant. So we don't want to do that. So I'm going to tie it onto the stake, and then once it's firm you can move the pot around. There's not much more to do to the pot apart from getting the fine grade stuff through the top and in through those roots, and then hopefully that will be okay. Right, and the stake first. Now I have to hold this. That's alright, it's leaning against the stake, so it is held up. Jolly good. And all we've got to do is get that down to where I want to tie the plant, which is about there. I only need to tie one pseudo bulb. It's just to stop it moving around basically. Once it's tied it'll stay put, and it's job done. Obviously this doesn't need to stay on there forever, just stay on there. It's not hurting. Right, so now the plant is reasonably stable. Now I've still got a loose media down this outside bit that I'm going to push down on because the roots aren't there. I moved the roots in from this media so I can get more down in there. I haven't got much more. Right, so that's all the bigger stuff in there. What's left over, we just got to put them in. And this is all of this. There's a tiny little bit left in the bag, but hardly any. But if I need to, there'll be enough to top this up. Right. And now the finer grade stuff is to go round the base of the plant and in through those little gaps on the roots near the top, so that they're at least touching something. There's no need to bury the back of the plant. It's highly unlikely new roots will come from there. They're going to come from underneath the new growths, which is this bit here. Right, and that, as they say, is it. And let's see what you make of that media then. It's just low enough below the rim of the pot so that it all doesn't come over the sides when I water it. But only just. Ugh. Grubby hands. Right, now let's see what it does with that. It's got a media that holds moisture. It has got some air. Now I was going to mix some charcoal with that, and then I thought, well, actually with the holy pot I think it will be okay. And the fact that it's gone into this media again, yeah, having come out of that media, it's gone into this. There's no major change to the root's environment. It's gone from one type of coir to another type, so it shouldn't have an adverse effect. You know, sometimes roots react to a major change. So I know sometimes, you know, if you've got something that was potted in moss, you take it out and put it in bark and the roots eject because they don't, it's not what they're used to. And you can get quite a lot of dieback if you change the media dramatically. But this isn't a change of media. This is exactly the same sort of stuff. It's just fresh and clean. So we'll see how we go. Now the other thing that I wouldn't have done had I not had a set of instructions is this needs to go in the light. Instructions somewhere between Oncidium and Cattleya light. Now I always class these as shade lovers, but apparently if you keep them too shaded they grow incredibly slowly and their roots don't grow so fast because they haven't got the top growth to support. So by putting them in brighter light it generates growth, it generates activity. So that is it. I won't bother putting that tag in because it's got no name on it and it's a bit scribbly, so we'll do a new one of my own. And that's quite reasonably firm, you know, it'll sit there, and all I've got to do now is watch this top, yeah, and as soon as that starts to show dryness of any kind, drown it. Literally drown it. Now I've got some bare roots showing that obviously have only got media on the inside, they're touching the outside of the pot. They will hopefully grow on round the pot because they were active roots, a lot of those. So if they carry on and progress around the pot, they'll find some media eventually, and the ones on the inside have got media, so that's it, that's what it's getting. And we will see how we go. Updates will follow, including I've killed another one if that's what happens. But with a lot more information from somebody who grows them pretty good, this one's going to stand a much better chance than any of the ones I've had before, where I was guessing really, you know. So this has had advice, I've taken it to the best I can, and we will see what happens. But we have got a bit of air around the pot, but not a lot. But that's to accommodate the cooler times. If I can get this through the winter, when we get back into the growing season again and this thing's got to put up with a bit of heat, I can absolutely flood this every day if necessary, and I will keep it wet. But during the winter time it can head towards dryness before it gets soaked again, and we'll see how we go. See you next time. Bye for now.